Okay, everybody, welcome to TechKnow. Tonight, we are going to talk about video production and video editing. Let me get a slideshow going here and a few other things. Shh. Okay. Quick time, where'd you go? Okay. Introduction to video production, and I didn't know that rhymed until I saw it. How we make TechKnow videos. So I'm going to do a quick overview of what we use as far as hardware and software, and then we'll transition to actually doing some video editing, and then we'll end up with some questions. So first we'll go over the equipment we use to record the video and the audio. For the people here, you can actually see the camera. The camera we're using is a Canon 5D Mark III. It's a DSLR camera. The problem with this camera that I would say if there's a major issue with it is because it's not meant to be a video camera. Although it can be used for that when you do long take video like we do at TechKnow, DSLR cameras have a 30-minute maximum record time, and this is because of a stupid European tax law that says camcorders should be taxed higher than cameras. So to get around this, Canon put a limit of 30 minutes because apparently 30 minutes and 1 second, if it can record continuous, constitutes a camcorder. Anything less than that is just a camera. So that's why a lot of DSLR cameras only record up to 30 minutes before they stop automatically because of tax reasons. I'm pretty sure that there is a hacked firmware, I can't remember what it's called, Magic something or other, that allows you to do that. But seeing this is another company of mine's camera that we use full time, we're going to wait till the warranty expires till we update. But we ordered another camera for that company that is actually a camcorder that will record full time, which will make my job easier moving forward. Otherwise, obviously, it makes fantastic video quality, full 1080p. It does not do 4K, but for TechKnow videos, we don't need 4K. Some basic stuff. Tripod we're using is a Ravelli professional 70-inch tripod with adjustable pistol grip head. But we don't use the pistol grip head. That's for photographers who want to take up photos and they want to turn the camera sideways. They can do that with the pistol grip without having to take it off of the tripod. What we have is a Manfrotto 502 video head. This is called a fluid video head. It actually has a very nice slow motion, so you can do pans up and down, left and right with it. This ridiculous tripod, you can't tell from the picture, but it's about yay big. It's what we put our Zoom recorder on over there, which I did not start, so I'll start that. Good thing that we're not asking questions yet. Okay, perfect. The microphones we use are Sennheiser EW100s. I can't remember if they're Generation 2 or Generation 3, but they're wireless, and we use the lavalier microphone, but technically the receivers, you can put anything you want into them. Another microphone we have that we used to use when we had multiple presenters is the Rode VideoMic Pro, and this is just a shotgun microphone that mounts on the top that picks up audio from a lot of people. It won't be as crisp and clear because you're not going to get it right from the source. It's going to be audio traveling across the room, which means it'll also pick up other things. But shotgun mics are very directional, so where you point them is usually the most sound it picks up. An additional thing we have is the Zoom H4n digital multi-track recorder. That's what we use for secondary audio. This tries to pick up the audio of the people who come to the meetup so we can try to get their questions, because before I was trying to do captions for questions, and we put a stop to that because typing captions is not fun. So we actually have two of these Sennheiser microphones. So when we have two presenters now, we've actually gotten this, which is the wrong description. Nice. It's called a Samaric something or other. Anyways, all it does is it takes two inputs in and does one output out. So we can put two microphones into one camera, so we can have two microphones in. Technically, you could put splitters in all day long to do this, to accomplish it, but this allows us to control individual volume of each microphone independently. For screen capture, sometimes we have the Blackmagic HyperDeck Shell 2. That's what this device is right here. It captures HDMI in signal. The problem is that it's got some weird setting on it that it's meant actually for full-on video productions. And I believe most computers output RGB color. It wants YUV color, which is a production system. There is a converter that apparently we just need cables for. That will convert HDMI RGB into YUV color, and then this problem will be gone. So I'll get into what we used to do screen capturing when that doesn't work. And then inside that, we have a solid state hard drive to capture everything. So for video and audio editing, aka post-production, after it's all been recorded, the hardware I use to do the editing is usually an iMac. But if I'm traveling, I will use a MacBook Pro. For storage, I just started recently using this Western Digital 4 terabyte external hard drive. Now this makes organization a lot easier for me. Instead of having a few videos at work, a few videos at home, I just load it all off this hard drive, so I always have all the TechKnow videos, past and present and in the future, on this one spot now. Make sure you get USB 3.0 at a minimum, otherwise you're going to have a horrible time. Okay, now we'll talk about the software we use to edit the video and the audio. For video editing, I use Final Cut Pro 10. You have to have a Mac to use the software. If you don't have a Mac, there are a lot of options. The most popular software, it's also for Mac, but for Windows would be Adobe Premiere, which if you have the Adobe Creative Suite, you automatically get that. And then the other software is Sony Vegas, is another very popular editing or software editing in Windows. For audio, if I have to do audio editing separately, it'll be Audacity because it's free. But a lot of the times, I'll just do most of my audio editing right inside Final Cut because I can. So when I export from Final Cut, it exports to a RAW format, MOV file, and it's huge. If any of you guys were here for our bee presentation, when the guy talked about beekeeping, that file was like 128 gigs exported. It was a long presentation, which is huge. So to upload that to YouTube would take forever. So what I use is Adobe Media Encoder. It comes with the Creative Cloud. And this I convert it down to H.264 into an MP4 format. So it takes it from that 120 some gigabytes down to more like 12 gigs. It does really, really fantastic and fast compression. And when I got caught up on all the TechKnow videos, I got them all done, brought them all into Media Encoder at once and hit run and went to bed. And they just started cycling through and exporting while I was sleeping. So when the Blackmagic isn't working, the software I end up using instead is Apple QuickTime, which is what I'm using to record right now. And Apple QuickTime, QuickTime Player, you can just do new screen recording and it captures that. So now it is demo time. And hopefully everything goes okay here. I was a lot more optimistic when we had the Blackmagic working, but your screen would have been completely green. So I'm going to have to stop the screen recording, reset this all back up, and hopefully everything goes. So give me un momento, please. This is actually technically part of the presentation. I'm doing video production right now. I do not want to save it to my iCloud. So what I would do here, I'm not recording this for everyone else, unfortunately, but I'm creating inside my TechKnow folder, you can see I have a whole bunch of folders, and these are all the dates. So I will create a new folder for 2017-12-05, and I will go ahead and save that there. And hopefully this doesn't take a year and a half to save. Okay, and because I'm paranoid, I'm going to check it. Perfect. Okay. 8 minutes. I'm doing good. Okay. So let me go ahead and close this, minimize this for now, and start a new screen capture. This is actually how I started screen capture. So done, file, new screen recording. Record this one. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead down here and open up Final Cut Pro. And hopefully this just mirrors instead of showing like a special output video over here. Good, it's mirroring. Okay, so this is going to take a minute to load because it loads it all off to an external hard drive. And Final Cut Pro has what I consider to be a very confusing structure, but once you learn it, it's good. So there's libraries, okay, and just got done. Dan, you're the demonstration video. Congratulations. So there's a library level. So you can see I have a library right here. It's indicated by this icon, and its name is TechKnow. So this is everything that's in TechKnow starting from March 1, 2016 on. Then you have what's called an event. And an event would be considered, for me, what I call an event is a presentation. So all the events are named the dates of the presentations. And then inside your events, you have a project. Now the project is actually the video. This is what you're going to produce. And I name that the same as the date as well. And then what you do is you import all your media that you have just by, you can either do File, Import, Media, and then you click that. And then, for example, here's the folder of, let's find his presentation folder. So here's the presentation folder of Dan. So like I have Dan's picture that I use for the profile picture, which is what this is. It's the final presentation I put together. That I put together, I have a template I use in Photoshop. Then we have the closer, which is just what we play at the very end. And then I have two movie clips, and these are the movie clips we recorded off the camera. And then finally, if we get a good screen capture, then I use that screen recording and I can overlay that. But in Dan's case, we didn't have a screen capture of his presentation, and this happens a lot, where the capture didn't work or something along those lines. So what I have to do is Dan sends me his PowerPoint presentation, and then I export that PowerPoint presentation as JPEGs and pictures, and I can import them. And then the problem with that job is I have to either listen for or watch for clicks so I know when to switch to the new slide so it feels as though you're moving along with the slide properly. So you can also just drag and drop this all in as well. So, so for example, I'll just create a new, I'm going to kind of sort of recreate his thing. So I'll say new event, and we'll call this example. So now I have a new event, and I have no project sitting inside here. So my methodology for doing this, because I want a nice template that's consistent, is I'll go to a past video I have here, which this is the simplest project I have, which if you look at this and I open this project up, Tori didn't have any presentations for this. As far as we can tell, the screen recording didn't work the day we did this presentation, so everything he did was on the internet. So there was no slideshow to show. So I normally start with this one, and what I'll do is I'll right-click on the project, say Duplicate Project, and I'll just drag that project down to Example, or to my new event. I go down to here, I rename this to whatever it's going to be, Example, and then I double-click to open it, and it's down in the timeline. So what this does for me see if I can get this to work. It gives me my intro. It gives me the profile picture that already exists. And then it takes me into the presentation all the way to the outro with the music and the outro slide. So if I were to import Dan's presentation in here, I would say File, Import Media. And I would select everything of Dan's. So first of all, I'd import the slides. I would do the movies, the profile, and the closer. Let's say import selected. And one thing I do is, if you look up here in the right-hand corner, it says leave files in place or copy to library. So if you were doing this right off an SD card from your camera, you could say copy off SD and it makes a duplicate into the library. But since I want everything to be on this hard drive, I say it's already on the hard drive, it's already organized. I tell it to just leave it where it's at and just kind of link towards it. So if I ever deleted those files and tried to open this, I'd have a real problem. So I say import selected, and there we have it. So now we have all of Dan's videos. Here's his profile picture, his end slide, and then all of his individual slides. Okay. So the first thing I do, so I'm just going to play this so you can see this. So this is the intro that then fades in to the profile of the person. And I usually try to fade the music out just as the presenter is starting to talk, so we don't have all this weird dead space beforehand.
Right. My name is Tony Virelli, and I am an instructor at TechKnow.
So that's how we do the video. So I start with this project. So the first thing I have to do is the intro is always the same. The intro music is always the same. The thing that changes is going to be the profile picture. So I can grab Dan's profile up here, drag it to the existing profile, let go, and it's going to ask me a couple questions. And what I want to do is I want to replace it, but I want to retime it so it fits the same amount of time that already exists. So every single intro is the same length. So I hit that, and now Dan's ready to go with his profile. The next step I do, and this is a change of how I first did the videos. If you watch the old videos from all the ones that just got uploaded, you're going to see a slight difference. And it's because I realized, as important as the presenter is, the most important thing they're talking about is most likely what's on their screen, unless, for example, if you watch the drone video, I do a lot more of the people, the guys, because they're actually picking up the drones. So the very first thing I do, which is different than Tori's here, and I'm just going to go ahead and open up Dan's so you can see this, because I'm not going to recreate Dan's video, because that would take quite a while, is you can see, so this line right here, this main middle line, your main timeline, you have your audio timeline, and then up here you have additional overlay layers. You'll notice that Dan's not the main timeline. His face, his person on the camera is not the main timeline. The main timeline is actually his presentation. And the reason that is I found this really nifty trick out when doing all these videos. I used to slice videos and then drag them in, and then slice a video and drag them in, and that took a long time, and sometimes the timeline would jump and reorganize itself. And then I realized you can just cut the video, drag the opacity to 0. You see right through the video, you're seeing the slide below it, but the audio stays at full level, which I'll give you an example of how that works here. So this is going to be Dan's presentation.
Well, I just want to say thanks for everybody for coming out tonight. My name is Dan Davis. I'm the network administrator at Shine Brothers Corporation here in town. I've been involved in technology, networking.
So he's talking right now, what's important at this point is to see Dan, because he's presenting something. Now he starts to talk about the slide, and you'll actually see at a certain point his hand raises up and he talks, and that's how I know it's a good time to switch. We don't need to see Dan do this. But you'll see I actually bring it back because Dan does something kind of funny, and I put it in the video. So you're going to see me transition. You see that Dan's video is still here, but you're going to see you hear him, but you don't see him anymore. And that's because if you see up here, you can see up in the right-hand corner it says opacity 100%. So we're seeing 100% of Dan. I can actually drag that down, and you start to see through it. So what happens is I come to this spot, and I have opacity set to 0. So we're still getting the audio from the video clip. We're just not seeing it anymore.
Where's the slide input? Where did you put the slide in?
The slide's at the bottom right here. It's always 100%. Oh, okay. So the video is a layer above it, so all you're seeing is whatever's on top. But as soon as I make the top layer opaque, completely see-through, you see what's below it. So I'll play this here.
Own cloud, kind of incorporating that into the scenario that I have. And I'm using Own Cloud not as its own product. The corporate environment that I have set up right now,
So that's why we do that. So it's an easy way to keep the video going, the audio going, and I don't have to chop and reorganize videos. I just always have a consistent layer and a consistent layer, and it makes life a lot easier. So a lot of the times what you're going to see is you'll do things like, we're coming to a point here where I cut the slide, because you can see, if you watch Dan's hand, right where this line is usually, unless I messed it up here, let's see here.
going backup data. And
So yeah, so I didn't cut it there because I didn't need to, because you don't actually see it,
quick little
but watch.
point together here. I mean, the reason they're going back up your data is computer crashes, theft of equipment if you have a laptop, things taken, virus infection, hard disk drive failure, either in a server or workstation. And in the center, I kind of put a little blurb there about all data has value, and that's one of the things that I really strongly believe in is, you know, when I talk to different companies.
So, and that's just the transitions we do back and forth with the presentation-wise. I'm trying to find that hilarious video. Where is it? Maybe it's towards the end. He made some, oh, I know what he's talking about, his blog. Let me find the blog. You forget the things you say, Dan. So, okay, here's another example. I don't do this on a lot of videos, but I realized Dan was trying to explain something, and he was using his mouse to show you. Since we didn't have screen capture, I added this little extra thing, which I didn't do anything. It's all through Final Cut that I did this, to kind of really emphasize what Dan would have said you've been doing with his mouse.
Right-hand corner, I'll kind of hover over it with my mouse here if I can. That's the little icon right there. You guys, maybe you're not seeing that. Right next to desktop there, it looks like a little cloud with a green check mark. That's what the users on the end users on their desktop end up seeing. So
that's just a little thing I added in there because he was referencing something he was doing with his mouse, and there's people would have been like, I don't know what he's talking about. I've got to find this, Dan. I vowed I was going to show this in tonight's meeting. Okay, so you can see here, there's a whole bunch of weird cuts, like why would I cut back and forth from presentation to Dan? Well, for comedic value.
Configuration and my rollout to clients. I've documented the how-to on mine. Dan Wando was my takeoff of Taekwondo. That's the finishing move, guys, right there.
So that was absolutely not necessary, but if I would have left it on the slide and you're like, that's the finishing move, guys, right there, people are like, what is he talking about? I don't know what he's saying. So I cut back into that. So you can imagine trying to do videos like this and watching specifically like Scott's video when he did it on internet privacy and passwords. That was like an hour presentation. The winners of the B presentation with Sean Johnson, that thing was forever. It was fantastic though. Like that was college level education. Anyone could be a beekeeper pretty much after that, I think. Just don't wear black shirts. Anyways, it's really hard to sit there and watch an entire video over because you're replaying things over and over again to make sure it works. So luckily, you can turn this feature on right here. It's called video skimming. So I can just kind of skim through the video like this and watch for what I expect to be a good time where he's pointing at the screen or it looks like he's about to click, and then I can stop,
what file do you want
watch
to
from
grab?
there,
I want to grab everything out of my dock.
and see what's happening. You can actually do it with audio too, but this is super annoying. So I shut that off immediately. So anyways, we go through this. We keep putting the transitions in. Here's a prime example of what I did. If you watch his hand and the slide transition, you'll see what happens.
There's some training, there is some education that needs to go and happen, you know, in setting this up.
So right when he clicked, I cut the slide at the bottom. Even though you didn't see it, the transition of the slide, it's for me to know that I have that lined up, so if I want to make an edit later, I know everything is lined up properly. So we get to the end of the presentation. Now, at the end of Dan's presentation, I did bring his video down because he was done with the slides. This is where he transitioned from being done with slides to going to questions.
There's a little bit of latency here.
So we come to the end of this, and one thing I always do, if you haven't noticed this, is at the end, we normally say, thanks for coming, everyone starts clapping, and I find the highest peak of clapter when it's the absolute loudest, and I cut it there, and the music starts coming over the top of it. So it sounds like God knows it might have been rolling on for the next 10 minutes. It's usually about 30 seconds. But I'll just show you here. This is how it went. So while it's still going, I fade the music in. If we watch that same clip, oh, see if I can find it here. Why aren't you letting me play it here? Open clip. There we go. This is how it actually went down.
That I don't know. Oh, that built into it.
If I would start the music there, that'd be a very sad moment for everybody involved. So I try not to do that. Okay, so anyways, let's see here. Come back up here. Open project. So that's an example. How are we doing on time, Logan? We good? No? I want to give everyone their money's worth. Now, see, if every presenter did what I just did there, life would be grand. I didn't move, and there's a reason. I know I looked weird, but now when we cut the video, I can make it seem like that never happened. Normally, we don't have that courtesy of doing that and say, like, whoa, stand just where you're at. Don't breathe. Don't do anything, because we can't cut those together. Exactly. However, with the new camera, that won't be an issue, so thank goodness. Trying to find a better example here of where we actually had successful screen capture, so I can kind of show you what that would be like. That's Sean's for everyone. Okay, so this is where this isn't screen capture, this is off John's screen capture and Matt when they talked about Bitcoin. So I'm going to open this one up. So same situation. You can see at the bottom we have the presentation. This actually has a whole bunch of let me find it on here. So a lot of what the process is, the hardest part of this process is lining up presentation video with audio so that you don't hear it click on the screen, and then 3 seconds later you see the slide change. You want it to look like everything was consistently put together. But like you can see when he starts the screen presentation, it's this, he's getting Facebook going, he's getting some things set up and ready to go. By the time you see it down here, I've already found a good starting point. I found some loud sound that I can sync them upon, and for future, we're gonna do like the clapboard to make sure it'll make my life easier. But here's the same thing. We're switching back and forth between the video and the presentation, and I'm doing all this via opacity. And you can hear, if you listen to their audio here, you're going to hear it's a lot more dead than normal audio.
Net market cap, which is, market cap is the total market value of every single coin.
And the reason for that is at the time we didn't have the audio joiner, so we were using a shotgun microphone. It still picks up the audio, just not as well. So actually, this one we might even have the lavalier just chilling here on the desk somewhere. So that, I believe, is all I have for the video stuff. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things like drag and drop in video effects and cutting audio and things like that, but for the most part, that's getting into a whole other realm. But if it's a question you have, I'll answer it, but for the most part, I think that's where I'm going to end the presentation as far as what I have to show you. So if you have questions... Hold on. I did this for a reason. There we go. I'm not even going to do it full because I have to redo the screen recording. Seriously, ask questions. This video is going to suck.
How much does Final Cut cost?
$300. It's not cheap. But there are free video editing softwares for your Mac. I don't know what they are.
How does it compare to iMovie? Do you ever use iMovie?
I do use iMovie. Did use iMovie is a better term. Here's the thing. I could use iMovie for this too. I just use this for professional stuff. It's got a few more settings in it. It's got better compression output. And there's a lot more plugins you can get for this. I don't really use that many of them. And it's just a matter of I started using this. It worked really well. iMovie's timeline, I think, this isn't me. This is not 100% true. I don't know if this is a fact. If I remember correctly, I think iMovie has a limit to the number of layers you can put. So you might only put 2 videos above your main, and you can't keep stacking them up if you want. So.
Does Premiere Pro have the video streaming ability?
I don't know. I don't use it.
hardware recommendations would you give us?
Lots of memory, a solid state hard drive, and a really good graphics card with lots of memory in the graphics card.
Big monitor.
Well, yeah.
2 big monitors, actually.
Well, you actually don't, for video editing, I only use one monitor. So, I mean, you could, like for example, you could pop this viewer into its own screen and have that over here and do all your editing over here. But on a 27-inch iMac, it's not really a problem. So, on this laptop, it's not that fun. So, and if you don't plug your laptop, so this is a 2000, how old is this thing? 2010, mid-2010 MacBook Pro. At the time when I got it though, I put a solid state hard drive in it, otherwise this probably wouldn't be possible on this one. If I don't have it plugged into power, it's choppy. It draws too much power as I'm playing it. Maybe I can do it here, we'll see.
It's market capitalization. So they have a combined market cap.
It's not doing it right now. It's probably because it's fully charged, but if it's about 60% of the battery and you hit play, it'll be You'll hear the audio, but the video will chop. So when you're trying to sync audio and video together, it doesn't work.
Can you do a little bit more on the syncing audio and video bit? You
Yeah.
haven't done any of that. So.
Sure. Let me go ahead and open this project back up. I'm just gonna delete all this out. And I will file, import, let me think of someone.
While you're looking that up, so my understanding, you're recording 2 separate tracks on a separate audio and a separate video?
No. The camera records both my audio and my video. I do have a second video that is the screen capture. But the camera has the input for the audio and the video all to one. So my pack's going to there. You can separate them out. You can, it's called what's detach audio, and separate those 2 things out if you want to. I just normally don't.
What do you need to sync audio and video for?
So I need to sync the screen capture to the audio of what's happening on the screen. So if you're talking about something, and if I do this, I'm going to mess something up by doing this, but you can hear that click. I can hear it in the screen too. So, on a mouse, you'll hear that, and you're watching a screen presentation, and then like 3 seconds later, the slide goes, it looks weird. You don't have to. You could really be lazy about it and just say, okay, it transitioned at some point, start it now, fade it in. But if you're doing there's some presentations I have out there where it is all presentation, and in the upper right-hand corner, like a picture-in-picture, is the talker. Because their presentation is so much about what they're talking about on screen and not about what they're saying. Like this video will mostly probably be, you'll see my screen, and then I'll be up here just, actually I specifically framed the camera. I'll be over here.
How do you
Hold on, I'm trying to ask you another question.
audio recorder though?
Same thing. I listened for it's been recording for the whole presentation,